It's September the 21st, 2024. As this update came out at 1:48 p.m. Eastern Time earlier this afternoon, but it's the latest one that we have. What you're going to see is a difference in this cone. We got a 60% chance of development, but it kind of came out and was like a big balloon in this area. Now they're definitely showing that curve, and that's indicating that that high pressure is going to get a break right in the middle along the east coast. I showed you that in this morning's video. And so now this is not the size of the storm. They're talking about the track as of now could go anywhere from here in this curve to here. So Florida, watch this thing, because the way the fronts are setting up and the high pressure will be moving in over the U.S. in this direction, this thing could turn back right. Now, these two storms I've downplayed for a reason for the last week or so. They're just moving into colder water. Now, this storm is a 40% chance of development, but it formed very close to the Cabo Verde Islands, and that's much further north, over 150 miles, as a matter of fact, than where they normally form. I don't expect much out of it because of that northward turn, and right now we're going to focus on this. Again, everything's turning back to the right, guys. So if this thing comes in on this line, and we've got two models that's showing sweeping this way across Florida, so there'll be a lot of people in this population area. Now, this has not changed that much from this morning. They're saying that a broad area of low pressure is likely to form by the early to middle part of next week over the northwestern Caribbean, the adjacent portions of Central America. Thereafter, gradual development of the system moves slowly northward across the northwestern Caribbean Sea and Gulf of Mexico through the end of next week. Regardless of development, the system is expected to produce heavy rains over portions of Central America during the next several days. Now, some of the models are showing it sweep across the Yucatan, much deeper, and the more that it stays on land, then it will slow it down. It has to regenerate. Other models showing it coming through this area, and if it follows this path, nothing will be slowing the storm down. And it's getting very large, and I'm starting to see, if you filter through the satellite images, you can see large clouds, but with the right filter, you can see there's a tremendous amount of rotation at the surface. Now, I'm not going to make this a long video, but I'm going to get to the important parts. We're looking at the Caribbean right now. This is the Yucatan, and here's Cuba, here's Jamaica, and this is a filter that's called natural color. And what it really does is separate the very surface layer of clouds. It keeps them white, and as you get further up, it turns it into this baby blue. Now, I don't know if you guys can see what I'm talking about, but I'm going to explain it. They're talking about some of the models coming in through the Yucatan here, some through the middle. But let's look at what we can see with our eyes. We're starting to see slight northward turn with a lot of this energy. There's a lot of pushback. Look at how this is stripping back the upper layers. And what that's going to do is probably what we're seeing from the National Hurricane Center of that curve once it gets up into the Gulf of Mexico. But it may surprise everyone. We may see it move over sections of Cuba. That means if that happens, it's going to go across south of the Keys and up the east coast of Florida. But this thing's going to change over the next 4 or 5 days. But right now, I'm seeing a very powerful storm form. The reason I'm here again is to separate the bottom from the top. You can see the storms here. You can see the sun is setting. But I want to speed it up. And if you look in these clearing areas where you can see the surface, not the upper layer, there's a tremendous amount of energy. And the way I'm going to show you this is by simply speeding up the radar download. And just watch that area. Let's go right here. Now, as I go up one notch in speed, look at the commotion. Counterclockwise rotation, guys. It's like 3 times as fast. Even though I've sped up the satellite imaging, these clouds look fast, but this right here is outracing them tremendously. Now I'm going to speed it up one more notch. Again, I've sped this up so you can see what's on the surface. And it's like a lawnmower blade spinning under here. Guys, look at this entire area. You can see it. Everything's rotating. Now, I know I've got it sped up, and you can see that from just the upper layer clouds, but the bottom surface layer is moving 2 or 3 times faster. This thing could be a monster. The only thing that might inhibit it, and with all this wind shear, guys, this is what I'm talking about, that could slow it down. You've got everything moving from here to the northeast. That's tearing the cloud tops off. You can actually see it. The rotation is stronger here, but some of your stronger clouds are right there. Now, if that slows down as it gets closer to the Yucatan and Cuba, the storm will start to gather the storms around the center. But I think the center right now is somewhere in this area, just looking at the rotation. So you got that going for you. But once it gets into the Gulf of Mexico, things are going to change. Let's back it out and take a look at that. And let's look at this full-scale satellite image. It's getting dark, but notice the systems here. Everything's moving to the north as the Earth tilts forward south. This is a much larger storm now tonight than people realize. This thing, regardless of where it goes, is going to be very large. It's going to cause a lot of problems for Cuba if it follows this wind shear pattern. But notice right here, and we'll zoom back in, that once it gets past the Yucatan and Cuba, things starting to move back this way. So that's why that you're seeing on the tracker for the National Hurricane Center kind of balloon out in all these directions. All we can do is keep a very close eye on it. Let me tell you this. Prepare as if it's coming for South Florida or if it's coming for South Texas. I don't know how much stronger I can tell you that. Now, South Louisiana, you need a break. Let's take a look at a couple models. Now, this is our Canadian model. It pretty much shows it going over the Yucatan. Watch it. It's going to repeat itself here. Coming across the Yucatan, slowing itself down, reforming, and coming over the southern Mississippi and Louisiana, the panhandle around Perdido Key, Orange Beach, and Pensacola. But what it's doing is the same thing we saw this morning, was a high front, or high pressure area, forms over this part of the nation. Look at that. Pushes back and puts this low pressure back into the Gulf of Mexico. And guys, we're looking at the Navy model. I'm not going to play it because it's stuck back on September the 11th with Francine sitting there between Louisiana and Texas. And I've made some jokes about it, which kind of are true, even though I'm joking about what the Navy's going through right now. But I've never seen this in all the years the satellites have been up, and I've been watching the hurricanes longer than the satellites have given us any information about this. Why are they not doing anything now? But I've seen a lot of downgrade. They're just now voting in more money for the Secret Service for Trump. They're trying to get more money for the Border Patrol. But at least for the last hurricane season, from this one to last year, so a year ago or more, if you go to the National Hurricane Center, you can look at some information as far as the forecast, but you click on the satellite imaging and they show you nothing. Are they downgrading everything because of price, of the cost of doing it, because they're supporting Ukraine and the problems coming across our border? Or is it something that they're hiding just not to show us? But we've seen this for a long time, guys. Maybe 10 years ago, maybe 8 or 9, I can't remember. I did a video about an asteroid coming very close to our planet. And back then, space weather would show the exact, or as close as they could to the exact distance between our planet and the incoming asteroids. Now, all you see, and we had an argument back and forth between us. I would say, no, you guys are wrong. This thing's coming much closer. And because I was using the European data. But the guys in the U.S. and JPL and all, they were trying everything they could do to debunk what I was telling them. And what it was, the European information was showing it was like .003 on the closest. You will never see anything now past maybe a .1. That's very close. That when we're talking about lunar distances, averaging 280,000 miles. So if you're saying .1 LD, guys, you're still talking 30,000 miles out. Not even close. And so as it was coming in, guys, we argued back and forth. Believe it or not, they were actually, but at the older channel, we had over 400,000 subs on it. And so it was a little stronger. But I tell you what, the people that are on my channel right now, 160,000 plus, you're here for a reason. At this end time, the Lord has directed all of our attention in certain directions. I'm talking about me and the people that watch this channel. Everyone doesn't agree what I say, but I try to be truthful. Anyway, back to that asteroid event, guys. They were showing asteroids coming, under the satellite belt. We're talking about 22,400 miles for the satellite bands that you used to see with HBO and all that when they first come out. DirecTV now is very close to that satellite band. And this thing was diving in at around 8,000 miles, up under all those satellites. And my data from the European printout was correct. So right before it got to the planet, they corrected it for 1 day and went .003. Can you believe that? And it did. It zoomed right under the satellites. Didn't hit the Earth. And I wasn't saying it was. I'm saying it's much closer than what you guys are talking about. The main thing was that when you dive below the satellite band, now we got probably 100,000 satellites out there, you can knock a lot of stuff out of orbit. Nothing was reported about that happening. But right now, if you go to spaceweather.com, which is one of the links on our website, look at the asteroid updates. Nothing below maybe a .1. I'm talking about .003. A .1 LD in distance, guys. 28,000 plus miles. It's not even close. But the whole thing is filled on that chart between yellow, orange, and red distances of danger. Nothing's close. They shut it down because we were seeing the truth. And it looks like the Navy is doing the same thing here. Now, since the Navy's been neutered, we're going to go to the Global Forecast System. Guys, they are very accurate within 4, 5, 6 days. But because they extend their model out further than other people, they're not as accurate past that point because we see a daily change, right? But here they've got 2 storms on this track. There's the first one going up through Florida Panhandle. Another one forming, and watch this. Check that out, and that's going up to October 7th. Again, past that first week, but they're just sticking their necks out and looking at all the information they can. But it does give us an outlook. But the first one is anywhere in the Florida area, and that's why that National Hurricane Center bowed out like a big balloon right here. That pause at the end, we'll look at it one more time. I'll stop it. There's your first storm. The other one on October 7th, forming in the Caribbean right there. And look what it's doing. See how the high pressure is being broken apart here? And you can see the bulge in the low pressure. And this may be the remnants of the first storm that was going to come back out into the Gulf. Anyway, it's like a blocking back. This storm could follow the first one. I've seen it in some of the big hurricane years. You have one hurricane coming to Florida, another one come in very close to it, or come into Texas. The second one come in even stronger, closer to it. But guys, I'm just using the information we can get. But the satellite images, we got that picture, which is worth 1,000 words, is very important. We're watching it, guys. I've got an update on this new Comet Atlas. It's very intriguing because it may be the closest one that we can see, even in broad daylight, going back to 2007 with Comet McNaught. It may be brighter than that. It's going to be minus in the magnitude. That means it will be visible in the daylight. A lot of scientists thought it would be broken apart by the sun. And I looked at the JPL, guys. This thing was nowhere close. It was like out by Mercury and all. Not like iSun that came very close to the sun. And then we saw it shatter into billions of pieces. but it made it around. It didn't hit the sun. It was just the gravitational input. In other words, Atlas has made it past the sun. It didn't break apart. So we're going to see a very bright comet very soon. They're talking about October the 10th. Let me get the further information on that if I can put it up later. If not, it will be in the morning after the hurricane update. But I just want to say that we may get to see a beautiful sign in the skies. It's a heads up, guys. Be safe.